Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. With face-to-face program, we are once again before you, and our guest of today is Mr. ABDUL-JALIL Abdullah from Ghana. We are going to ask African security issues from him. You're welcome, Mr. ABDUL-JALIL.
Thank you very much.
Firstly, can you introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, first of all, my name is Jalil Abdullah. I'm from Ghana, as you earlier on said. I had my first degree in philosophy from University of Ghana and Arabic language, and also I studied Arabic language and diplomacy and culture in Egypt. Ain Shams. And then again, I worked a while with USAID and other international non-governmental organizations, and then I came to Turkey to pursue my further studies in international relations. So currently I am a student at Zurich University studying international relations, and I'm working on my final thesis on migration.
So, Mr. You are an African, and since our topic is security, I'll ask a comparison question. You are an African, and it's for 2 years that you are staying in Turkey. So, if you ask the public security in Africa and in Turkey, or to specify the topic, in Ghana and Turkey, okay. If you make a comparison, what differences that you can see between both countries?
Yeah, there's a big difference. First of all, when we talk about public security, we're talking about the safety of the people,
yes,
the citizenry, and other organizations in a country. So the responsibility of public security lies on the government. So therefore, the safety of the people in a country, or if you like, the citizenry and other organizations, is what we call public security.
Yes.
Or you can also put it this way, maintaining public order and peace,
yes,
is what we talk about public security. So now when we compare the two, Africa and then Turkey, or let me come down to Ghana, because that is where I'm coming from.
Yes.
And then Turkey, there's a big difference. First of all, we all know that security has, taken a paradigm shift right after the Cold War era. Security has become people-centered. Security is no more about fighting between two countries.
Two countries, yes.
The United States of America and then the Soviet Union, or Turkey and then Italy. No.
Domestic security
is about people. It's about what people eat, what people wear,
yes,
the health of people, the education of people, the rule of law, governance, democracy. That is people security. So in general, talking about public security, the safety of people, it boils down to maintaining the well-being of people, maintaining peace and order in a country, so that businesses can thrive, organizations can thrive,
and people feel that they are living in safety.
That's it. So if you have a country where there is no public security, no business will want to thrive in a country where there's no public security. In a country where there's no peace and order, there's not going to be any business or multinational organizations. So for a while, I have lived in Turkey, and I can say that when it comes to public security in Turkey, Turkey is far advanced from Africa or Ghana to say, in terms of logistics, in terms of human resource and capital, and in terms of numbers, the number of public security. When we talk of public security again, we're talking about the police. They maintain peace and order in the society. Civil law all come down to the police. And also talk about emergency responses like fire service, and also about ambulance service. All these are about public security. Now you compare Turkey and let's say Ghana or Africa. Turkey is far advanced in terms of emergency responses, like fire service, ambulance service,
Yes.
and swift response to emergency cases like armed robbery and so on and so forth. They have the logistics, they have the human resource, and then the numbers. The police, their number is huge. They have the capacity, they have it. As compared to Africa or Ghana, there is no logistics. The human resource is lacking. And then again, the capital is lacking. Let me talk about Ghana, because that is where I'm coming from.
Yes.
In Ghana today, when you look at the police-citizen ratio, you have about 1 police to about 1,000 people.
1,000 people?
Yeah, 1,000 people in Ghana. In Ghana, in total, we have about 26,000 policemen, as compared to about 26 million people. So when you divide it, you have about 1 policeman to about 1,000 people. Now, how can 1 policeman take care of the security of 1,000 people?
But the security, I mean, by counting or by number of police, is there a logic between the increasing in number of police to secure public? For example, you have been in Italy for this research.
Yeah.
So if you compare Italy and Turkey, public security, the first that appears to your eyes, what are these, for example? You have been in Italy.
Sure. Then again, we're shifting from the comparison between Africa, Turkey, and then maybe Africa and then Italy and then Turkey,
yes.
Or let me say Europe. And then again, when we talk about Italy, Italy is somehow far advanced in terms of...
But in Italy, is security, because of that the number of police too increased, or is democracy or other things?
Yeah, one, we can say that in Italy, the number of police to people or citizen ratio is higher than that of Turkey. And then again, in Italy, we can also talk about information system. The information system in Italy is more swift and sophisticated than that of Turkey. In Turkey, when you talk about information systems, it only works in the cosmopolitan or the urbanized areas like Istanbul or Ankara or other cities like Trabzon. But when you go down southeastern part of Turkey, information systems are not working as it should be. That is also something that is lacking in maintaining public order. So in this regard, Italy is far advanced to Turkey. Information systems are working as swift as you want to see, and emergency services are swift as compared to Turkey.
So, Mr. Jalil, I would ask, as we know from news or from medias, we know that there are many conflicts in Africa, and one of the major of this issue is security. Is there any regulation to protect one African country from other? For example, we know that NATO can protect one member from outside attack, but is there any regulation in EU to protect one African country from other African countries or from outside states?
Yeah, then again, African Union, as we say, that is the AU, is the continental body of Africa. They're supposed to bring African countries together, promote free movement of people, maintaining peace and order in Africa, from country level to continental level, public peace and order. So therefore, the laws are on paper, very beautiful, nice, but implementation
or in practice
is the problem. Now, the law as it is on paper is beautiful, but implementation is the problem. African people do not have freedom to move from one country to the other. This problem, we might refer it back to the legacy of colonialism. Before colonialism, African people move about freely, doing their businesses freely. There's nothing like borders between countries. But in the aftermath of colonialism, where the colonialists introduced artificial borders between African countries. African countries have been divided along language lines, along cultural lines, and along, if you can put, say, religious lines. So you might find the same people divided along French and English languages.
Okay.
When they move across borders, they cannot communicate.
So can we say that this unsecure of being unsecure is a work of colonial invasion term?
Yeah, to some extent, we can put the blame on colonialism, because when we talk about public security, peace and order, language also comes in. How do you maintain peace and order as a peacemaker or a police officer if you do not understand the language of the people? Now we have what we call Interpol across the world. Now there's Interpol in Africa too, across borders. How do you maintain peace across borders if you do not understand the language of the people? If you're a police officer working along the borders or immigration officer, how do you relate with the people across your border? For instance, you're in Ghana, you speak English. Right across the border to the east is Togo, French-speaking country. When you go to the west, Ivory Coast, French-speaking country. When you go to the north, Burkina Faso, French-speaking country. So if you are a public peace officer, a policeman, to say you do not speak French, how do you maintain order across borders when a citizen of Burkina Faso crosses and enters into Ghana? How do you seek to his well-being? How do multinational company from Togo, Burkina Faso, or Ivory Coast do business in Ghana? There is a language barrier. Again, it's a barrier to public order or public security.
Mr. Jalil, in your opinion, what is the danger for African security in near future?
Yeah, in the near future, the danger of African security, I see it to be poverty. That is the danger to me of African security. Poverty, to say, it sounds something like more of economic, but it's a security threat. It's a human security threat. Today, in the whole world, third world countries, African countries, consist about 2/3 of all third world countries in the world. When we talk about the third world countries in the world, African countries number about 2/3 of the whole third world countries. And more than half of African population, are below the poverty line. People in Africa do not even have $1 a day to survive on. So the threat to African security in future, for me, is not about political instability. It's not about lack of rule of law and democracy. But for me, the threat is poverty. Because people take to arms in Africa because of hunger. As they say, the angry man is an angry man. When somebody does not have food in his stomach to eat,
he may rob.
Yeah, he takes to arms to want to overthrow a government.
Mr. Jalil, there is another problem. In many African countries, there are domestic wars between tribes. So, for EU, is there any regulation or
it's AU, not EU.
AU to protect these domestic wars in the near future?
Yeah, for AU, there are laws that sort of ban or ban governments or people who overthrow civilian democratically elected governments.
States.
I know recently in Niger there was a coup d'etat, and the government, the rebels that overthrew the government was suspended from first the ECOWAS regional body and then the AU African regional body. They were suspended from membership of the regional body. In other words, no member of African continent has nothing to do with that country, just because they came to power through coup d'etat. So these laws are on paper to kind of deter people from taking to arms or embarking on coup d'etat.
And lastly, what do you see for the future of African in the 21st century, in its welfare or security, and what else in the way of richness or foreign investment?
The future of Africa,
Yes.
that's a big issue. The future of Africa, for me, I see Africa has everything. When we talk about resources,
Underground.
we talk about water bodies, rivers. Africa is endowed with all the beautiful rivers you can find in the world. Africa is endowed with resources like natural minerals like gold, bauxite, manganese, diamond, phosphate, uranium. Africa is endowed with all these things. But the problem is the human resource. And secondly, leadership. And thirdly, democracy. So for the future of Africa to be bright, then we need to develop our human resource to tap the potential that we have under the ground. If we do not have the human resource, the technical know-how, the technocrats, the resources we have underground will still be there. And if we are able to unearth it, people will fight over it because of illiteracy. But if you have the human resource, well-educated people, literate population, people will not fight over resources.
Or simple things.
For simple things. For instance, take Nigeria, the Niger Delta, where all the oil resource of Nigeria is located. Now, the native people of Niger Delta, majority of them are uneducated. They lack the human resource. Therefore, those who are working in the Niger Delta are multinational companies. Name them Shell, Mobil. Whereas the native of Niger Delta do not have the opportunity to work in these multinational companies just because they are illiterate. They do not have the technical know-how. Now, they are fighting the multinational companies just because they are hungry, because of poverty. They resort to terroristic activities, killing multinational experts, hijacking their equipment, bursting oil pipelines, just because of the selfish, of the simple interest that they need their share of the oil resource. So what I'm trying to say is that simple. If African people are educated, they are literate, they have the technical know-how to tap their own resource under the earth, then the future of Africa will be bright. Because the person coming from Britain or France or America to come and tap your resource has his own interests. It's not coming there for free of charge.
And to food
One
you.
is a business-making company. He wants his profit. He's not coming to look into your face, tap the resource, and give everything back to you. He's coming there to make sure that he's going to reap his profit and go back to his country. Take everything away from there to his country. So for Africa to be bright in the future, we need to develop the human resource of the African people. Let me give you this simple example of a story of an African village where the people were, from the beginning of the village, you know, they say necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes.
So the people of the village was called Lamidozo in Africa. Now the people want water to drink, but they do not have water. Resources. Well, what they do is that every morning, there's one particular family. They travel a long distance, go fetch water, come back to the house, and then make use of that water. As time goes on, there came the realization that this is very tiring, waste of time and energy. So what do we have to do? Let's design something simple that we can make use of. So the people of that village designed something like a wheelbarrow. They use a wheelbarrow, they travel across distance, fetch the water, come back, make use of it. Initially, they were carrying gallons to go fetch the water and come back. Yes. And they realized that carrying the gallons is tiring and headache. So they developed that wheelbarrow. They use it, go, come back, and they make use of the water. Then a white man came and told them, okay, I can do something simple for you. I can just connect pipes from where you're fetching your water right into your bedroom so that you can make use of it, so that you relax, you don't travel across distance again. So the white man did that for them. He connected pipelines far distance right into their houses. Then they make use of that water. Now the white man went away. So in the near future, the pipeline got burst. Now, they did not know how to repair the pipeline. The white man was not there again. So who is to repair the pipeline? The white man who fixed the pipeline for them was not there. So are they going to call him to come and repair the pipeline? They don't know where he is. So that was the end of that technology. Now what I'm trying to say is that if the people were given the technical know-how to develop their own technology as they understand it from their own cultural point of view, regardless of the white man, they can develop their own future for their own well-being. So for African people, or for bright future in Africa, we don't need the white man to transfer his technology to come into Africa and go away. Fine, we need technological transfer. But what we need is that they should teach Africans how to fish, not to just give them fish yes. for one day. We need technological transfer just to teach us how to fish in our own cultural perspective for our well-being. For bright future in Africa, the topmost priority is education. Singapore today did not get to where they are without education. The chunk of budget of Singapore and South Korea goes to education. Today, you have over 80% of South Koreans and Singaporeans populations being literate.
Yes.
So education is key in Africa.
Okay.
Now you look at South Korea and Ghana. Let me give a very good example. South Korea and Ghana. In 1950, when Ghana got independence from Britain, Ghana became a republic from Britain in 1957. But Ghana was granted a republican status right from 1950. Now in 1950, Ghana's per capita income was higher than that of South Korea.
Really?
Ghana was far advanced than South Korea. But today, you can't compare South Korea and Ghana. Why? Because South Korea made education their topmost priority. Today in South Korea, over 95% of the population are literate. When you come to Ghana today, not even more than half of the population are literate. So how do we then develop a country with about half of the population being illiterate?
So you mean that the education is a key?
It's key in Africa.
For a bright future?
For the bright future of Africa. Yes. Education is key. And then democracy in Africa today is key. Rule of law, respect of people's rights, democratic governance, not coup d'etats, not political instability. Most African countries today, more than half of their budget goes to defense. Instead of putting those budgets to education, investing in the human security of the people, investing in public security, they invest those monies into defense. They want to protect their presidency, their throne. They don't want to leave power So about 50% of African countries' budgets today goes to defense, the military, because they are protecting their presidency, their power, regardless, I mean, at the expense of the human security of the people, at the expense of the public security of the people. So in order for Africa to be bright, we need to, shift the pendulum from the chunk of the budget being used for defense
to education,
to human security, where education comes in, where health comes in, where democracy comes in, where poverty also comes in. All these things fall under human security. If all these things are taken care of in Africa, then I believe Africa has bright future.
Bright future. Mr. Jalil, for sharing your opinions with us, we thank you. And for your joining also, we thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, for the next program with Face to Face, once again we will be before you. See you next time. Goodbye.